They say every love story hides a secret, but in Yulong and Yang Mei Mei's story, the secret was never merely about romance, it was about a symbol so strange, so deliberate, that it rewrote the way fans spoke of them. When Yulong reached for a ring shaped like a golden snake, the internet inhaled and never quite let out its breath again. The choice was not elegant, not conventionally beautiful, at least not in the quick surface way the world judges beauty. It was deliberate, ominous, intimate. It felt like a quiet declaration delivered with a whisper and a dare. Rumors travel fast in the world of stars, but some rumors coil and hiss, insisting on attention. Months before the proposal, Yulong was seen in a quiet market far from cameras, hands tracing the edges of ancient boxes, eyes catching on the dull glint of brass and gold. He moved with the intent of a man hunting for something he both feared and needed. The stall keeper later remembered the way. Yulong's fingers trembled the first time they opened the small black box. There, coiled like a sleeping secret, lay the ring. The sight of it made the air feel charged, as if the object itself held a story in reserve. The ring's history only deepened the mystery. It was older than the fashion of the moment, older than the rumors that swirl around every headline. Word spread that it had been passed down through a family's generations, and with the tale rode whispers of betrayal, of a love that had ended in ruin. Some said the ring had been used in promises later broken. Others spoke, in hushed tones, of an old superstition that bound the piece to fate. Yet Yulong chose it, as if he wanted to turn rumor into truth, accusation into answer. The selection felt less like a purchase and more like a retrieval, as though he had been borrowing history for a vow. It is tempting to reduce such decisions to spectacle. Many celebrities choose grand gestures to shock the news cycle. They spend fortunes to buy a headline. But the golden snake did not appear to be bought for spectacle. The design was restrained but unsettling, scales so fine they looked carved from memory. A body that looped into an almost endless coil. Eyes set with emeralds like two small, watchful moons. It was not showy. It was purposeful. It resembled a sentence more than a slogan, a contained declaration rather than a loud announcement. Fans began to imagine private meanings. Some suggested it referred back to an old joke between Yulong and Mei Mei, a line tossed during an early argument that later turned tender. Others insisted it was a rebuke aimed at enemies and emblems, saying, quietly, beware. Conspiracy forums threaded theories like necklaces, that Yulong had hidden a message in the pattern, that the ring's engravings matched the crest of a mysterious patron, that the emeralds were not simply stones but pieces from a compass. The more implausible the idea, the more people wanted it to be true. Imagination fed itself until rumor took the shape of myth. The night of the proposal was staged like a ritual rather than an event. Not the ostentatious displays of some celebrity marriages, but a quiet ceremony, candles arranged in single file, a garden that smelled faintly of jasmine and something older, the hush of a crowd that sensed it was witnessing more than spectacle. Guests felt a gravity in the air, as if everyone in attendance had been summoned by a promise they had not yet heard. When Yulong opened the black box, the hush swallowed the city. For a heartbeat, the world was narrow and bright, focused on that loop of gold. Yulong's speech that night was not the florid oratory expected of film stars. He spoke in low tones that seemed to measure the ground beneath each word. He spoke of shedding, of the way a creature leaves skin behind and refuses to die the old way. He told Mei Mei that love, to him, resembled that slow, relentless renewal. His voice broke when he said the snake was not venom to wound others, but a lesson about survival and transformation. Mei Mei's eyes filled before his words finished. She took the ring as if receiving a map more than a jewel. After that, every public sighting of Mei Mei's hand felt like a sentence delivered to an audience. Fans dissected every photo, every tilt of her wrist. The ring glowed at interviews, flared in flashbulbs, and the whispers multiplied. Some declared it an act of defiance in an industry that idolizes diamonds and sparkle. Yu Long had chosen a motif that spoke of danger and endurance. Others saw tenderness, an artifact chosen to honor resilience. A long and hidden conversation made visible. The ring became a question everyone wanted an answer to. A darker strain took hold online. Old stories about Yu Long's early career resurfaced, tales of colleagues who envied him, whispers of contracts and partners who vanished at critical moments. The snake, some said, served as a protective talisman, a declaration that he remembered betrayal and would not be caught unguarded again. To them it was a warning that, beneath a charming smile there, remained a count of debts. Romance had become militarized into vigilance. The lovers were at once gentle and armed. Every camera angle that caught the ring became evidence in an unfolding dossier. Yet other observers refused the notion of symbolism as armor. They saw in the ring a narrative of repentance and reclamation. The snake sheds its skin to live again. Who among us has not won the wish for such rebirth? Perhaps Yu Long, in choosing the serpent, was proposing renewal, not erasing the past, but inviting transformation. In that reading, the ring becomes covenantal. Together, we will outgrow what binds us, again and again. That double reading, threat and renewal, made the ring an engine for story, not a mere accessory. A jeweler with knowledge of rare pieces complicated the folklore. He claimed the ring bore a minute inscription, language faded by age, a sequence of initials, a date, a phrase so worn it could be read in several ways. Linguists argued on forums, supplying translations that matched their preconceptions. Some read the mark as a vow. Others said it recorded a debt or a warning. The ambiguity suited the ring like a veil fits a face. It invited interpretation and refused neat closure, which only strengthened its hold on public imagination. Private memories added softer, human textures no tabloid could translate. Close friends of the couple whispered that Mei had once admired a snake carved into a bracelet in her grandmother's house. Another murmur said that as young actors, she and Yu Long had passed a night talking about myth, serpents, and phoenixes, and the stubbornness of fate, and that conversation had felt then like an omen. Yu Long, friends said, never forgot. He kept the memory as a cartographer keeps a map, small, folded, referenced in secret. That tender recollection made many fans soften. It turned something ominous into something intimate. Public reaction was never uniform. In some corners, adoration turned to unease. In others, curiosity became reverence. Prophecy and gossip braided into one relentless narrative. And the pair who had once been chased for their romance were suddenly guardians of a new myth. Interviewers began to ask different questions, not about film roles or endorsements, but about destiny and the ethics of symbols. Fan art proliferated, serpent rings drawn with calligraphy, collage that placed the golden coil next to ancient texts and family photos. People seek patterns. In patterns they locate meaning. Time did surprising work. It softened some edges and sharpened others. The ring became an heirloom in the court of public opinion, loved by some, feared by others, endlessly debated by all. Mei Mei wore it at awards and late-night recordings. In images across years, the ring stitched itself into the visual record of a life. Friends said the couple laughed about the fuss in a way that suggested intimacy rather than resentment. They knew the stories. Sometimes they leaned into them for the way a performance can make life sweeter. And sometimes they recoiled, as any honest people would when their private griefs are reframed as public spectacle.